A harsh reality for EVs. Americans just can't quit their giant gas-burning trucks. It's clear that the American love affair for big gas-guzzling trucks is not fading anytime soon. Despite the relentless push to make EVs the future of the auto industry, it seems that what many drivers want is powerful, roaring engines under the hood, something that electric vehicles just can't replicate. Ford's recent shift in focus is a prime example of this. In this video, we'll discuss how Ford has put the brakes on its three-row EV plans, pushing it back until at least 2027, and instead they're doubling down on their super dirty trucks. The financial struggles of EV profitability. Last year, when Ford was negotiating with Unifor, the union that represents Canadian auto workers, the company promised it would build a new three-row EV at its plant in Oakville, Ontario, starting as soon as 2025. But in April, it hit the brakes on those plans and put the rollout of the EV model on hold until at least 2027. Let's be real here. If EVs were the wave of the future that everyone claims they were, wouldn't Ford be plowing ahead with that three-row EV? But the fact is, EVs are not selling like hotcakes, and the demand just isn't there, especially when you compare it to the ongoing craze for big trucks. Ford isn't stupid. They see where the money is, and it's not in EVs. It's in those massive gas-burning machines that Americans love to drive. The Super Dirty is a perfect example. Ford's CEO, Jim Farley, even admitted that they cannot keep up with the demand for these trucks. So instead of throwing more money into an EV project that might flop, they're wisely investing in what's already a sure bet: more Super Duty trucks. The role of consumer demand in shaping automaker strategies. This isn't just about profit, though that's a big part of it. It's also about what consumers actually want. There's a harsh reality that many EV enthusiasts just don't want to admit. Americans love the power, reliability, and presence of big gas-powered trucks. These vehicles aren't just models of transportation. They're a statement. They represent strength, independence, and the ability to get things done. Whether it's towing a boat, hauling supplies for a weekend project, or just knowing you can conquer any road, these trucks offer something that a silent battery-powered EV just can't match. And let's talk about practicality. For many Americans, especially those in rural areas, a giant truck isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. These are the people who need to travel long distances, often without easy access to charging stations. They need a vehicle that can go the distance, carry heavy loads, and keep running no matter what. The idea of replacing these workhorses with EVs that need frequent charging and might struggle in harsh conditions, it's not realistic. So while the media and politicians keep pushing the EV agenda, companies like Ford are making the smart move by sticking with what works. It's not just about clinging to the past. It's about recognizing that the future isn't as clear-cut as some would like to believe. The demand for big, powerful gas-powered trucks is not going anywhere. In fact, it's growing, and automakers who ignore that are doing so at their own peril. Legacy automakers' strategic adjustments. Ford might like to flaunt its EV sales, but let's be honest, the real cash cow for them is still their big gas-guzzling trucks and SUVs. These are vehicles that keep the lights on at Ford, not the shiny new electric models they keep hyping up. Take the Ford F-150 Lightning, for example. Sure, it's gotten a lot of attention, but when you look at the numbers, it's barely making a dent. They sold just 7,900 of them in the second quarter, less than 4% of the total F-Series sales. Compare that to the sales of their gas-powered Ford Expedition, which outsold the Lightning by more than double, and it's clear where the real demand is. Ford is not the only automaker facing this harsh reality when it comes to EVs. General Motors, another big player in the auto industry, is pulling back on its ambitious EV plans. Remember when GM confidently announced it would build 1 million EVs in North America by 2025? Well, that goal seems to be quietly slipping away. Even as they talk up their EVs, GM is rolling out 8 new or redesigned gasoline-powered SUVs. Why? Because these vehicles are what actually sell and generate profit. For all the noise about the future being electric, the sales numbers tell a different story. Yes, EV sales are growing, but not at the breakneck speed that everyone expected. They grew nearly 5% in the second quarter, which sounds impressive until you realize that it's a far cry from the double-digit growth automakers were banking on. Meanwhile, the traditional internal combustion engine, or ICE vehicles, saw a slight dip in sales, but that's mainly because the sedan market, something automakers like GM, Ford, and Stellantis have mostly abandoned, continues to decline. The trucks and SUVs, now those are still going strong. And let's not forget about the financial side of things. Ford is losing about $1 billion each quarter on its EVs, and that is not a minor setback. This is a significant financial hit. Meanwhile, their big gas-burning trucks and SUVs are raking in billions in profit. It's these profits that keep the company afloat and allow them to experiment with EVs in the first place. So while Ford might be all in on promoting their electric future, they're hedging their bets by doubling down on what really works: those massive gas-powered machines. The dream of EVs being a gold mine for traditional automakers is turning out to be just that, a dream. When Ford, one of the biggest names in the auto industry, starts bleeding money on its EV segment, it's a wake-up call that the reality of EV profitability is much harsher than many anticipated. Ford reported a staggering $1.1 billion loss from its EV unit in just the second quarter of this year, selling 26,000 EVs. If we do the math, that's a loss of $44,000 per vehicle. Ford can argue all it wants that these losses include long-term research and development costs, but the bottom line is clear. EVs are a money pit right now. Tesla's shifting role in the EV market. Now, the question to ask is, why is this happening? One major reason is the ongoing price war in the EV market, ignited by Tesla. In Tesla's shifting role in the EV market, in the face of growing competition, Tesla started slashing prices, forcing other automakers to follow suit. This has turned what was once a high-margin, high-hopes segment into a battlefield where profits are getting squeezed out of existence. Tesla, once the poster child for EV profitability, is now facing a reality check of its own. In the second quarter, GM's profits were double Tesla's. So let that sink in for a moment. A company that's still heavily reliant on internal combustion engine vehicles is out-earning the pioneer of EVs. That's a pretty clear indicator that the EV market isn't the golden goose everyone thought it would be. GM's success in this context is particularly telling. While they continue to push forward with their EV plans, they're also reaping massive profits from their traditional ICE vehicles. In fact, GM just raised its profit targets for the year on the back of strong sales and gas-powered vehicles. And this is despite the fact that they recently reached a labor deal with the United Auto Workers Union, which included significant pay raises. It's a stark contrast for the losses being racked up in the EV segment. Let's not forget why these traditional automakers were so eager to jump on the EV bandwagon in the first place. Tesla's early success, with its sky-high profit margins and soaring stock prices, made the EV market look like the next big thing. But that was when Tesla was virtually the only game in town. Now, with more players entering the market and prices being driven down, the profit margins that once seemed so promising are quickly evaporating. The dynamics have shifted, and not in favor of the traditional automakers who bet big on an electric future. The political uncertainty impacting EV adoption. The push for an EV future has been heavily influenced by the prospect of tougher emission rules and lucrative tax credits, both in Europe and the United States. But the political winds in the US are shifting, and that's throwing a wrench into the automakers' grand plans. Former President Donald Trump has been vocal in his criticism of these incentives, arguing that EVs are bad for the US economy. This creates a significant layer of uncertainty for automakers who are banking on a consistent regulatory environment to support their transition to electric vehicles. This political uncertainty is a big deal for automakers. Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares recently pointed out that the transformation these companies are undertaking from gas-powered vehicles to EVs is a massive, decades-long process. It's not something that can be turned on a dime. But here's the catch. Political mandates and regulations, especially in the Western world, are often short-term, tied to election cycles that last 4 to 5 years. This mismatch between the long-term nature of automotive investments and the short-term nature of political promises is a recipe for chaos. Imagine trying to plan for a future that depends on stable regulations, only to have those regulations potentially ripped out from under you every few years. That's the reality automakers are facing. They need stability in the rules, subsidies, and overall market environment to confidently push forward with their EV strategies. But when the political landscape is as volatile as it is now, that stability is far from guaranteed. In the end, the future of EVs in the US isn't just about technology or consumer demand. It's about politics. And with the political landscape as uncertain as it is, automakers are right to be cautious about going all in on electric vehicles. The reality is that the EV revolution might not be as inevitable or as imminent as some would like to believe. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel so that you can see more videos like this.